So I'm going to eat something so I can make sure I stay alive. And we're in chapter 24 of the book of Job. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit because why does the Almighty not set times for judgment? Well, he does, I guess, if there is an Almighty. It seems like every 100 years we have a type of a pandemic. And, I was studying concepts of the apocalypse while I was at the U of O right before this happened. And premonitions are a real thing. And back in 2016, when I saw Trump come into office, I thought, oh boy, here we go. And I thought, oh, okay, well, this is the time. It's about time. And so I put up a YouTube video called Mad Voter's Guide to 2016. Because I kind of saw the writing on the wall a little bit. I thought, yep, this is a time for wars, plagues, famines, floods, hurricanes, fires, depression, Great Depressions, worldwide apocalyptic type epic things. Mm-hmm. It's just time. Why must those who know him look in vain for such days? Men move boundary stones. They pasture flocks that they have stolen. That's true. They drive away the orphan's donkey or take the widow's ox in pledge. Yep. They can take your house, your car. They can take anything they want to. Who they are is the people in power. If you give up too much power, they can take everything and toss you to the streets. That's happened to some women I know. All they did is go through a divorce. And then they lost it all. Their house, their kids, their job, everything, and their mind. They thrust the needy from the path and force all the poor of the land into hiding. That's what we do over here in Lane County. Like wild donkeys in the desert, the poor go about their labor of foraging food. I used to have to forage. I didn't have to, but I did. I went foraging with my parents. I've seen people forage for food in the garbage cans downtown Eugene. And I've seen people dumpster dive. I've dumpster dove once when I was at the U of O, just to show my daughter what kind of stuff college students throw away. Perfectly brand new stuff. Some of these people come over from China, just when they're done graduating, they got so much money, they just toss everything in the dump and hop on a plane and go back. They don't bother recycling anything. The wasteland provides food for their children. They gather fodder in the fields and glean in the vineyards of the wicked. Well, of course, vineyards are always wicked. Come on, alcohol's wicked. Especially if you get wine from California, it's, covered in arsenic or it's got arsenic in it. It's just not good. So wicked vineyards are wicked. Now, there is a really good movie called Walk in the Clouds. That was fun. What fodder is. It's like material to work with. Just give me more fodder for my imagination. Lacking clothes, they spend the night naked. I don't think I've seen anyone running around naked lately. Although I guess it's legal to go around without your top on if you live over here where I live. And we have done a naked bike ride once a year. But I think we have an abundance of clothing for the most part, at least in these parts. I don't know about other countries if they actually really have people that don't have any access to clothes, but maybe once upon a time they did. So sometimes people like to sleep naked. They don't like They don't like pajamas. Lacking clothes, they spend the night naked. They have nothing to cover themselves in the cold. Now that I have seen before over where I live. There's been people who have frozen to death. A cold snap can hit. A puppy once of my daughter's froze to death outside, and I feel bad about it. But I didn't know that there was a cold snap coming, and I was working, and she was working, and that was a heartbreaking situation. Humans can also freeze to death. So it's a part of our community service as citizens to do what we can to help certain people who are less fortunate than we are. And I was working, thank God, I was working with another neighbor in 2016 to help people who were stuck out on the streets, because a lot of the churches in our area closed their fucking doors. Because everybody was sitting home in their nice, warm, cozy houses. There wasn't very many people out on the streets helping people. So the neighbor that I was working with, I call him Robin Hood. His name was Robin, and his wife's name is Sarah, and he would load up the back of my van with sleeping bags and tents and hand warmers and gloves and hats and blankets, and my partner and I were buying as many as we could too, to give them out to people stuck out on the streets that couldn't even make it to a warming center because the snow was so thick, and they didn't have the proper shoes, and they didn't have the proper socks, so we were trying to our best to help them as much as we could. And the police obviously weren't helping that much either, because I was told I was trying to heat up some water with an electric kettle and to give people some hot chocolate and whatever. And they basically told me I was stealing services by plugging it into an outlet outside of the police department building. Well, I wasn't meaning to steal services. I was meaning to help people because there's a lack of services. Assholes. They are drenched by mountain rains and hug the rocks for lack of shelter. Yeah, I've hugged rocks and found shelter under trees and stuff. I've been out in the rain before. Rain's common over here in Oregon. The fatherless child is snatched from the breast. That sounds like DHS at work. And the infant of the poor is seized for a debt. That sounds like DHS at work. I was told that our state makes a lot of money by taking children away from parents and placing them in foster homes or moving kids around. The state actually makes a lot of money and gives people careers too. Lacking clothes, they go about naked and carry the sheaves, but still go hungry. So bringing in the sheaves, we have a hunger issue. A lot of people are stuffing themselves full of junk food and they're starving their bodies of nutrition. That's the truth. You can eat a bunch of empty calories and your body will still give you the message that you're hungry. So if you eat real food, it's more satisfying to your body. You don't have to eat a bunch of junk food. They crush the olives. They crush olives among the terraces. They tread the wine presses, yet suffers thirst. That's fun. Olive oil is good for you, and so is olives. And maybe one cat is good. A whole house full of cats might not be so healthy. Too much of anything isn't that healthy. But they tread the wine presses yet suffer thirst. Well, yeah, because alcohol is actually a dehydrant. So if you do drink alcohol, you should make sure you drink water too. And balance it out. Make sure you eat some food too. And don't drink too much alcohol. I know these things. I'm an alcoholic. I can, teach people about what to do and what not to do. The groans of the dying rise from the city, and the souls of the wounded cry out for help. But God charges no one with wrongdoing. That's good news. So if you've sinned, you're forgiven. If you're an adulterer, you're forgiven. If you're a murderer, you're forgiven. You might still have to suffer the consequences, depending on where you live and what the laws are. I guess if you're a child molester, you're forgiven. I guess God charges no one with wrongdoing. That's our job. There are those who rebel against the light. Come over to the dark side. We have cookies. Who do not know its way or stay its paths. When daylight is gone, the murderer rises up. Actually, that's funny because I guess it might, I don't know if more murders take place in the daytime or in the nighttime. Because I know people who out there that have murderous hearts and they're no control. They, It's scary. I read an article about a woman who was being attacked by her neighbor kid. Violently attacked. And the police couldn't do a thing about it because the neighbor kid had an IQ of 40 something and is a refugee from some other country. And that woman had to move away from them because the police wouldn't do a thing about the 15-year-old. God, thank God I don't live having neighbors like that. I'm pretty sure I don't. Yeah, police aren't always able to, I guess, to protect citizens. They should be. If a child only has an IQ of 43 and he's violent, or she is violent, they should probably be separated out of society to keep society, civil society, safe. The groans of the dying, the souls, God charges no one with wrongdoing. Just separate people from each other if they aren't feeling safe around each other, or they're not safe, and stay around people who do help you feel safe. There are those who rebel against the light, who do not know its way or stay in its paths. When daylight is gone, the murderer rises up and kills the poor and needy. Wow. Well, sometimes murderers end up being like O.J. Simpson. They don't kill the poor and needy, they kill the rich and famous. In the night, he steals forth like a thief. Well, I know about thieves stealing things. One time a guy was in my house and he had weapons stuffed up his sleeves. Something was up his sleeves. I scared the shit out of him. Did a good cop, bad cop on him. And he emptied out his sleeves and he had a pair of scissors and some sharp objects and a strap. And I chased him off my property. Threatened to call the police on him. Made him pay for the items he wanted, and he ran off my property. He happened to be from another country, down south. And I could have called the police on him, because I don't know what in the fuck was going through his mind. But, I know about thieves that steal hearts. I know about thieves that hold people hostage, and they basically demand stuff. I know about pastors that put guilt trips on people for getting 10% of their tithe to the church so that they can pay their bills and pay the church's bills. And I know about pastors and ministers and prophets that fly around in jets and live in mansions and have sex with their secretary who's 33 years their junior. Herbert W. Armstrong. There's more than one way to steal things, I guess. The eye of the adulterer watches for dusk. He thinks, no one will see me, and he keeps his face concealed. Well, I like dusk. It's a fun time to go for a walk. And when I'm with my friends who are divorced people and single people, and some of them are in open marriages, and some of them are all over the spectrum of humanity and transgender, all sorts of people, we like to go dancing. We have a fun time dancing. That's sinful. That's a sin to dance. Especially to 80s music on a Friday night. Because that's a Sabbath. And I tell people I still go to church on the Sabbath. Well, I don't anymore because they've canceled church. But I go to church of the 80s. With my friends. my partner. We have fun. We get exercise. In the dark, men break into houses, but by day they shut themselves in. Well, that's what we're all doing now. We were supposed to all shut in, day and night. They want nothing to do with the light. Well, there's some people actually that are afraid to show their face in public because they maybe have done something or whatever. They're afraid people are out to get them. For all of them, deep darkness is their morning. They make friends with the terrors of the darkness. I'm friends with atheists and agnostics. And people who wear tattoos all over their bodies and faces. And there's some people that I am friends with that look scary. They look scary. They look weird and scary. And they have different colored hair. And they've got piercings. And they wear dark clothes. And they look like badasses. But when you get to know them, they're really nice people. And they're just people. You can't judge a book by its cover. That's for damn sure. Because I know some people who are evil. And they look conservative. And they look like Christians. And they're not. Some of them are conservative Christian Republicans. And they're not Christian. They like money. Yet they are foam on the surface of the water. Their portion of the land is cursed, so that no one goes to the vineyards. As heat and drought snatch away the melted snow, so the grave snatches away those who have sinned. Wow. So basically they're just saying, what this is saying here is if you die, you're dying because you've sinned. You deserve to die. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Because there's little kids that are getting this coronavirus and they don't deserve to die. There's healthcare workers that are getting this and they don't deserve to die. People come to these conclusions that you get what you deserve. Some of them are pretty harsh judges. And they're not necessarily a good judge of character. So I guess I have some people in my life who I'm sure on the day I die, they're going to be happy and they're going to say, well, she got what she deserved. I have other people who might be sad. The womb forgets them. The worm feasts on them. Evil men are no longer remembered, but are broken like a tree. They prey on the barren and childless woman, and to the widow show no kindness. Oh, I've met some of those people too. But God drags away the mighty by his power. Though they become established, they have no assurance of life. None of us do. He may let them rest in a feeling of security, but his eyes are on their ways. For a little while they are exalted, and then they are gone. They are brought low and gathered up like all others. They are cut off like heads of grain. If this is not so, who can prove me false and reduce my words to nothing? Men are like grass. The Bible says so, and it's true. And the head of a grain can actually, depending on the grain, it can have ergot poisoning on it and make people go nutso. That's how we got the Salem witch trials. A bunch of hormonal teenage girls went a little nutso. They might have been on a drug or something, I don't know. But they linked it to potential ergot poisoning from rye and other grains. And it's hard to detect it. Now we tend to process grains so that we keep that down, but it can still happen. And ergot is one of the the chemical in ergot is also found, lysergic, whatever, it's found in LSD. And I've heard that LSD is on the rise, which I've never taken it, but that's where you get the 60s, all the hippie movements of the 60s. So maybe that part of history is going to repeat itself too. I know some young people that admire the hippie generation, and they're talking about a revelation, or I mean a revolution, beginning a revolution, so we can have a better tomorrow. That's the truth, because I've talked to a lot of people of different political approaches, and a lot of these young people that I talk to, they do not like Trump. They do not like Christianity. They're done being judged. They're fed up being judged. They're more European in their thinking. They're more into concepts like sex work is not bad. These were people that I know at the U of O. And they're our new generation, that open marriages, European marriages are the way to go. There might be something to that. If I had gone into my first marriage with that concept, I wouldn't have divorced the guy. I would have just invited his little sweetie pie over for dinner and her partner, and we would have become one big happy family. I would have been thinking, oh, I guess maybe we are closet Mormons. And then I would have said, hey, I can have a house full of brother husbands. If you want a house full of sister wives, let's go for it.